Hello and welcome to the analysis of where England got it wrong in their bid to at least win one test match. Didn't even win one, which is a real blight on the English game. My name is Lee Addison. I'm the owner of Rugby League Coach. And please subscribe to this channel. Please like this video and please leave your comments, good, bad, or indifferent. In previous videos, I've gone into detail about England's attack and England's defence. And just to brush over those again, in attack, too lateral, but also the build-up to the set, the way they construct the set. Too much going to the middle to try and play around the Australians, and also not enough changes of direction. In the third test, in some ways, the shackles were off because officially it was a dead rubber test match. But a test match is also a test match, and I think England probably tried to stick to their structures a little bit too much again, which we will go through when I go through the third test analysis soon. Defensively, over the previous weeks, I've been talking about how England commit so many men to the tackle that sometimes it leaves them short in the defensive line, and how sometimes the edge defenders have not known whether to push, whether to hold and paddle, whether to come up and in, whether to stay up and out. They've been at sixes and sevens so many times. So it'd be interesting to see where that changed in the third test, if at all. What I'm going to do first, though, is have an overview of the series. And there's one particular problem that I want you to have a look at with me that's gone through from the first test to the third test. And let's see if you can pick it up. I'm now going to share my screen with you. And like I said, please like this video if you do like it, and subscribe to the channel for even more content, which will keep coming during the off-season. Don't you worry. Before we go any further, just a message to all the coaches out there. I've been mentoring coaches for a long time. I've been a coach at NRL clubs, World Cups, and also elite high schools, head coach in many of those places. And I have worked at every level of the game, and I want to continue to help coaches. That's what I've dedicated my life to over these last few years. My specialist program is the Coach Mentor program. It's a signature program where I can mentor you one-on-one, but I can also mentor coaches at clubs. Several clubs now have joined up and are using the Club Coach Mentor service. It doesn't matter where you are in the world, but if for the Coach Mentor program, but if you'd rather do your own online learning, please head to rugbyleaguecoach.com.au and have a look at our prices at rugbyleaguecoach.com.au/shop for our various online programs, because Rugby League Coach has the biggest rugby league coaching online resource in the world. So whatever your budget and wherever you are in the world, you can become a better coach. And you can't expect to be a great coach if you're not improving yourself. If you're not improving yourself, how can you improve others? And now to the football. So as you can see, this is the first test again. So let's have a look. A previous video has acknowledged this before. Look how many England players are on the wrong side of the ball. So if you have a look at where the referee is and look in a straight line coming horizontally across the field, the ball is almost in line with the referee there. Look how many England players are above that imaginary line. So they're already looking short. And this is a result of everything I've said in previous weeks about the ruck defence, where they committed too many men to the tackle and not enough players could come back into the line in time before the ball was played. What I also want you to look at is all the players, the England players underneath the ball as you look at the screen, and as you look at the referee and where the ball is. A lot of the England players are starting to turn their hips in towards the ball. Their eyes and their hips are towards the ball, and this is meat and drink to players in Australia, and they literally just do a block play, an X play if you like, and easily go around. Now, we all know that was a forward pass. However, look at the great Australian support play on the back of that too. So that's the first try in the game. Also in that, we had some problems. Look how disconnected this England line is. We've also said it's short. Also, Mikey Lewis has started to come out of the line. He's the player almost directly in front of the line of run of Nathan Cleary. Now, he started to come out of the line, so that's providing an opportunity for Nathan Cleary just to engage him. Nathan Cleary has just passed the ball, and 3 English defenders are around him, and they've all separated their feet, so they're all sat in a position that looks like they're about to sit on a toilet. Those defenders have bit, and that has explained the space that has been created outside. Mikey Lewis did a Swan Lake dive, which probably stopped him getting an obstruction penalty, and as a result, Australia went under the post. So that try was scored on the left side of the field. Okay, now we start to see some patterns emerging. This was a try where Alex Walmsley, a prop, found himself in the wrong area, and Jack Welsby was half asleep when the ball came to him via Angus Crichton. Now, Australia are playing the ball from a central position on the field. If you look at the referee and move down that line, you will see the second player below the referee is a man almost twice the size of everyone else. That's Alex Walmsley, and he's a prop, and he found himself on an edge in this situation. He is defending where the halves normally defend. In fact, it looks like he's pushed his half further in. How that's happened, I do not know. In the lead up to that, I think some players were a little bit selfish in terms of where they moved, and this is just meat and drink to players of an Australian competition where they're always looking for the minute details. Jack Welsby, suffering from performance pressure, just froze on the line. That's the first try on the right-hand side of the field. I told you there was a pattern. Just wait. As you can see here, England have had 3 men in the tackle. There's one that you can't see. And Australia are already on their feet about to play the ball via Harry Grant. And England haven't got their markers square at marker. Neither is the third defender that you currently can't see right now in position. Watch this. Look where he is when the ball has been played and is in the hooker's hands. So England are 1 defender short in the defensive line. This was not fixed. For some reason, they wanted to commit so many men into the tackle on numerous occasions. Now, as the ball goes across, you will see there's actually now 2 English men not in the defensive line. One of them directly to the right of the referee is Jack Welsby, the fullback. He's just about inside the ball, but he's a bit laboured. But you will see the player who didn't make it back from the ruck is almost parallel with him. And as the ball goes across, England are short defensively. Now, what's happened here is the third defender in has bit. He's come into Angus Crichton, expecting Angus Crichton to get the ball. Instead, the ball goes out the back to Cameron Munster, who simply uses his pace and his palm to get past George Williams, who, if you remember, also bit into that defensive line. Now, Herb is also doing something that is criminal, really, for a centre. He's about to turn his back on an up-and-out defence, and he should really be coming in at this point to help George Williams. I'll go back so you can see this again. So George Williams has started to bite here. He's the third defender in. So from this point, the English defensive line should be thinking the ball is about to come into the defensive line, so we have to make a decision. Even an up-and-out defence that moves outwards has to come in at some point. And as the ball gets closer, Herbie Farnworth, the centre, keeps sliding, and he's actually slid past the ball instead of staying inside the ball or coming in to tackle Cameron Munster and put pressure on him. So you could argue this defence is too passive, and instead he slides past the ball. George Williams does a passive tackle. Angus Crichton exposes it. Let's look at that again. George Williams bites. Herbie is not connected on the right, and Cameron Munster sees that space, meat and drink, and the try looks so easy. And we knew Jack Welsby was not going to tackle him on that day. So that's 2 tries on the right now. Again, defenders biting. Can you see a pattern? It's all on the right side of defence. Herbie Farnworth was technically out of position on the right side of the field. So that's 3-1 to the right side defence in a negative sense at the moment. So 3-1 in terms of tries conceded. Let's look at this line. We've just gone back to that try. It's not a coordinated defensive line. George Williams, the third defender up from the bottom of the screen, is behind the line now and is now not committing. Maybe there was a coaching instruction, don't bite, George. Instead, he's now gone the other way. Herbie Farnworth is not connected with George Williams. They are now retreating, and Australia just used very simple play and very good support play to push up and support the ball carrier, the number 4, Shibasaki, who passes the ball easily into the inside. So 3 tries down the right side of the field. We're now in the second test. Australia get the ball from a past post situation. Now, this was the first try in the second half, and what you want you to notice about this is how many bodies Australia had around the ball. I'll playlist it for you again. Look how many men Australia had around the ball, and look how many different angles they are running at. This is where England seriously underperformed. They were too lateral in their attack. Defensively, look at that English defensive line. Again, the disconnection in the defensive line, not a coordinated approach. What should be happening is all these players should be moving in the same direction, either up and in, coming towards the ball carrier, or up and out, continuing to slide and pushing from the inside. Instead, we have players behind the line. One player has turned in, he's bit. Other players not in the defensive line. The top 2 defenders, Dom Young and Herbie Farnworth, are still detached, and they are detached from their third man in, which again is George Williams, who bit, and again that's just meat and drink to Cameron Munster. So this came about because of all the bodies around the Australian ball. You will see as I've paused the tape here, some defenders around Nathan Cleary have started just to sit, which means they can't move laterally from this point, or can't move laterally easily past this point. So Nathan Cleary currently has the ball. The ball goes out of the back, so a backman play, which Australia did a lot too, except they did it better. A backman play to Cameron Munster, who's now got the ball. The lead runner has engaged some defenders who should all be pushing from the inside, and Herbie Farnworth, the second defender in from the top, should be tighter to George Williams in an up-and-out defence. But this was the confusion elements that were in the English defence. Cameron Munster goes to the line with some bodies. He's got an inside option right now. On the left edge has already gone through into the defensive line. England were too busy looking for the obstruction. Instead, they didn't read it very well. The centre, the right centre, Herbie Farnworth, is detached from George Williams, who's bit, and Munster just goes through that gap. We now have 4-1 in terms of tries on the right side. Sometimes these things happen in your defensive line. Sometimes there's not much more you could have done. But that now is a try to Australia's right, which means the left side have conceded 1, so that's now 4 tries to 2. The right side are still leading this negative column. We're now going to go to the next test. This is the first try. I'm going to be going through this in a bit more detail later, so I'll just let you watch it now and then we'll skip to the next try. It is, however, another try conceded on the right side, so that makes it now 5 tries conceded by the right side of England's defence, 2 to the left side. Don't worry, we will be going into more tactical detail about that try soon. And the same with this try too, we'll be looking at it a little bit later. Again, a kick better received from Australia than England. We are in the second half. That space around dummy half was ridiculous. There's 1 try to the middle of the field, so we now have a third column, 5, 2 and 1. Basically what England did there was give away a silly penalty. Most of England's players were offside, and then from this point of view, behind the goals, the big thing about defending a player such as Harry Grant is you've got to defend the ball first. So the marker really should hold, in my opinion, until the ball has left Harry Grant's hands. Also, you will notice England have only employed one marker in the scenario here. Now, quite often I go with two, because the game allows you to have two people offside. So I like to use them. If there was two defenders here, Harry Grant would not have scored this try. The reason teams leave one marker out and back in the defensive line is to give the illusion that the defensive line isn't short. And the other golden rule is, don't slide until the ball has gone past you. And Morgan Knowles, I think that is, in 13, slid. Here's another try in the second half. Again, you will notice England still have a player who's getting back from the play the ball. This is the defender right in line from where the ball is right now. Also, England have three men on the short side, which means they're defending man-to-man as opposed to zonal. So, basically, where Harry Grant has the ball now, England have 6 defenders tied up. So, the 2 at marker, the player coming back from the ruck area, who's delayed, plus the 3 on the short side. So, there's 6 defenders, which means there's only 7 defenders somewhere else on the field. England had this wrong all the time. Dearden has the ball, runs a good line that engages defenders, except England are doing it okay around Dearden, but can you see the defender that is currently under the referee's boot, the boot that is closest to the left of the screen? I think that's Kai Pearce-Paul, or is it Callum Watkins? I can't remember. And he's already started to turn in, and he's taking a seat in what we call planting in defence. So he's already starting to commit, even though the ball is nowhere near him. I would prefer him still to be square, to have his hips square or relatively square like the 3 defenders inside him. Instead, he comes in and then retreats, and this retreating was always a problem for England. The decoy runners from Australia, very good again. Isaiah Yeo, I think that was, did a good job. Munster gets rid of the ball really early this time. Now, because of this defender's issues and George Williams, who we know likes to bite in defence, Reece Walsh is now being covered by 2 people, which means somebody will be free to score a try somewhere. Now, I know this was lucky from the Australian point of view, but I want to explain something. As the ball comes across from Reece Walsh now, the right centre tries to intercept. But look at his effort to intercept it. If he'd have just defended that ball, he would have been fine. Australia have a scrum in the middle. Don't forget their attack wasn't great either, except England's defence was so poor. Look at the space on the side where Reece Walsh is. Reece Walsh, if you look at this paused element now, is looking straight at the post. The ball is going to come in his direction based on the signs that we see on this pause, but look at the space that has been left there by England. No wonder Australia scored tries. Yes, they broke from the scrum relatively quickly and closed that space. However, Reece Walsh has the ascendancy because, as we know, George Williams likes to bite. This time he held. So Reece Walsh just used his footwork. He's very good off his left foot. If you look back at some of my videos, I said we have to get Reece Walsh on his right foot if you are supporting England. That's when I say we, I sometimes do that, even though I've lived in Australia for 2 decades. I said the scrum moved relatively quickly, but if you can see, some of the inside defenders are quite laboured, and that's meat and drink to Reece Walsh. I literally can't believe that try. That was so basic. Look again, look at the break from the scrum, the gap, the laboured defence from the inside. Australia got 7 tries on that side of the field. We're now going to go into a more detailed assessment of the third test. Australia attempted to shift the ball early, and that was a sign of their intent. England, once again, 3 men into the tackle. As I said in the first video I did after the first test, the wrong person is getting off the ruck. It's always the person at the legs, whereas it should be the person with the shortest distance. You can still control the ruck if you've got hold of the legs, and as you can see here, the ball is played and we have one less defender in the English defensive line. Australia move the ball via a block play. We've got 3 men in the tackle now, and again, there's not a clear picture as to who should move off the ruck first. And England are now relatively short because they've left so many defenders above the referee. Look, they're not even coordinated. Some of them are moving up and in. One of them is moving back still. And all hips are turned in. And Australia have already sensed that there's going to be space around the ruck. You do not leave this space for Harry Grant at all. He's going to find something in a moment. I've talked to you already, or discussed with you already, about staying inside the ball all the time, inside shoulder defence. Watch what the markers do now. Go too far, overreach, and luckily for England, it was defended very well by the Burgess, who was the wing. Now, Australia are on the attack again. England sloppy at the marker area, but I want you to look above the referee and look how defenders are starting to turn in already. This was a compressed defence, which should primarily be up and out. It should be compressed and up and out and moving in the same direction. There's absolutely no need for any defenders to be looking in with their bodies towards the ball. You can turn your head towards the ball, but your body should stay square, because there's going to be problems if you have to move and change direction. So every player, defensive player on the right now, is turned towards the left, and there's only 3 of them because they're short defensively. They've not got the defensive split right. Australia have made defenders bit. They've made Georgie Boy bite again, and this time a prop forward makes a huge break. That is absolute sacrilege in the defensive line. Their attack, one of the big problems I had with England is I thought they played too much down the middle of the field. So I've just paused the tape here, and as you can see, the top end of the field, the 2 players that are underneath the word Christoph on the advertising board, they were never going to get the ball. They're both looking towards the ball. Also, let's look at the hooker's body language. Let's go again. So remember, my theory is that England could have played with better tactics and more eyes-up football as a default, and also they're playing too much to the middle. Jez Litton had an excellent series, but let's look at his technique here now. Right now, the subconscious pattern he is giving out is that he's literally giving nothing out right now, okay? So all he's doing is looking straight at the ball. I also want you to notice that Australia also committed men to the tackle too, except they seem to get back quicker and it never got exposed by England. But I want you to look at the hooker, Jez Litton, now. Look at his body language now. So every defender knows that Jez Litton is going to pass the ball to the middle, okay? Why? He's facing the middle with his body too, with his legs. And on the top of the screen, you can see 2 pairs of feet there, yellow boots and white boots. They're not looking like people who want to get the ball. And what I would like to see is them being more energetic and having a look at the defensive line to see if there was a short side they could exploit. Now, from this screen grab, I can tell you right now, there's a prop on the short side, so there is something to exploit. Instead, all England's work was to the middle of the field. Now, what's going to happen is Smithers, I think this is, instead of just carrying the ball, if he'd have carried the ball here into this defensive line, you can see Australia have got defenders that aren't spaced very well themselves. There's gaps there. The markers haven't engaged with the defenders. They've also left a prop forward who detached from the ruck behind the line. So they've got similar problems to England. Instead, Smithers decides to pass a ball, and he actually fired it towards his teammate. And they made mistakes like this all too often. Australia didn't just drop the ball in these circumstances in their own 30 or 20. If they did, they didn't do it very much. England, I can remember it happening in the first test, the second test, and the third test. So England have just given Australia a field position gift for nothing, basically. They were just trying to force a pass. We're about to see now the try that I skipped past earlier. Now, the reason I skipped past it earlier is I want you to see the full thing that happened at the play the ball before the try was scored. So Nathan Cleary turns the ball back inside to Tino Fa'asawa Malawi. There's 3 men in the ruck, and then I just want you to see what happens at the ruck. So they have a little wrestle and a bit of a brouhaha. England, so obsessed with physicality rather than smarts, are quite keen to make things a little bit dusty. But think about this in terms of the time of the play the ball now. This is the slowest play the ball in the history of rugby league, which means the England defence should be organised. Tino's about to play the ball, the referee gets back. Hopefully we get a chance to look at where the defensive line is. Now, when I look at the numbers there, I actually don't have too much of an issue that England can defend like this. But again, we've constantly seen that the defenders weren't always on the same page. Some were moving up and in with their hips turned in when others were moving up and out. And they actually retreat here. So instead of coming in to move up and in to kill the ball, instead of continuing to slide and kill it from the inside, they've actually ended up retreating. The right wing here has completely got it wrong and turned his hips right in. He's out of the defensive line, he's lost, and Burgess has no chance of coming back to cover that. Back to England's attack. So we're talking about the story of the third test here. Again, I want you to look at the obsession with going down the middle of the field. The short side are not doing anything to engage attack defenders in any way, shape or form. There is nothing happening yet. Australia have got 4 men on that short side. If there was good engage from that side, and also in England's attack, so good engagement on that side, and then England played maybe 2 passes to get down the field to go at where this Australian defence is short. The last defender at the bottom of the screen is Mark Nwanga-Nitawaze. They are compressed, and their defence was a lot better than England's. They could have got a passive tackle which would have got go forward and got their momentum moving down the field. Instead, they just cart the ball down the middle of the field. And because of all the subconscious clues, even when Australia are short in defence, they pick that up really easily. Look at England's body language now. It's only early in the game. They are all around the ball, looking at the ball. You could probably throw a net over that team. All they are saying is, Australia, we're coming at you. We're coming directly at you. We are not playing football. We're just going to come directly at you. So Australia can put all their energy into sorting that. We do have some offloads now. And I showed you this clip because I want you to see if England did play wider more often, they would have got go forward. Instead, when they saw chances, they tried to score from them and ended up getting bundled into touch. Here's another exit set. Let's see what England do with this. A block play for Herbie Farnworth. We're now on a scrum line situation and the ball has been offloaded. Great stuff from England, but look what they do on the back of this. Again, England have just done something disruptive, okay? And what they needed to do was play football on the back of that disruption. Instead, they've just gone down the guts of the field again. Again, I want you to look at where it says rugbyleaguecoach.com.au/coach mentor. Look at the Australian defence right underneath that where it says rugby. They are short there. Their defenders are still retreating. If England had better attacking shape, if they looked up more and played a little bit more expansively in their own half, they would have caught Australia napping. And you don't have to score with all these things. You just create go forward. Creating go forward by getting passive tackles. Passive tackles lead to the defence going backwards. Passive tackles lead to momentum in the attacking line. Again, they've got some now. It wasn't hard for England to get go forward when they did some smart things. There's your passive tackle. Harry Grant gets it wrong. There's a penalty to England because he came in too late and then he had a little argument. Here's England again attacking now I argue that England should have played more football from roughly this red line because defenders like to have a snooze. Again, all the signals are that England are going towards the middle of the field. So even though Australia are a bit raggedy in their defensive line, they can deal with this easily. Instead, England do actually think about shifting. Now, once again, the play is staying within the tram lines. So the tram lines are the lines that you see at the top of the screen there. So if you look straight across the halfway line, above the referee's head, you'll see a horizontal line coming across, and the ball is roughly around there now. And the ball recipient, which I think is Kai Pearce-Ball, is what you would call the front man, and the back man is nowhere near where he should be to receive this ball. Now, I'm asking you, if this ball was given to the person at the back, which is behind Kai Pearce-Ball, under the words AU on the screen, would England have found some space? And the answer would be yes. But they're playing too much inside the scrum lines. This was a huge problem for England all throughout the series. They go back to the middle now, so this obsession with going back to the middle, which allows the Australian defence to recalibrate, and watch England now. They move the ball. This is good from Lytton. He's engaged some defenders a little bit. Somebody's about to come inside him. The shape isn't too bad, but they're just trying to play within the scrum lines. I think this is Smith. Gets the ball. Front and back man option. The person who is just where the Ashes sign is on the H, he's the front man. The back man is where it says E in the Ashes sign. And even further back next to the kangaroo is Herbie Farnworth, left centre. These are the options. They could have got Herbie Farnworth one-on-one with the right Australian centre in some space. They've stopped that because of two reasons. One, because they went back to the middle of the field, and therefore the Australian defence recalibrated. But two, because they went short. Their obsession with playing within the scrum lines and not exposing Australian frailties was their undoing in attack. Now they're trying to get to Herbie, but they've caused him too many problems because they're playing from a cramped spot. And I want to look at England's much maligned good ball attack. Again, an obsession with going to the middle. So when you go to the middle, it allows your defence to number up 5 and 5. As you can see very clearly, to above the referee, as you look at the screen, Australia are going to have 5 defenders there. So that means underneath the referee, towards the left above Eon and Next, there are going to be 5 defenders, 2 men at marker, and a fullback makes that 13. So when I talk about 5 defenders, that's the 10 defenders in the defensive line. So by continually going back to the middle, England are giving Australia time to recalibrate. These are basics. Okay, by going to this scrum line area now, just under the word next, under the E, England have made the Australian defence a little bit less comfortable because they are now asking them to adjust. So a good attacking structure would keep the Australians guessing from this point. Look at number 4. At the bottom of the screen, Herbie Farnworth looking at the ball. They're not pushing off the ball. They're not looking at the defensive line. They're not engaging those defenders at all. All England's body language says they are going to the middle of the field again. And guess what? Straight back to the middle of the field. So again, Australian defence can recalibrate. 5 defenders again. Okay? So England are now trying to go at 5 defenders. The commentators gave praise for this from Harry Smith because he ran at the line. I think he ran at the line because he had no room. Now you may notice from this point, Australia only have 4 defenders in front of the right of England's attacking options, but they're going to go left, as you can see from all their body language. Jez Lytton was obsessed with just coming out and trying to engage a marker. Sometimes he just needed to give the ball square. Now, what's interesting about this clip is England have now come up with a double lead. England were trying to break through the Australian defence like an American football team here with a double lead. Great option, really. The problem is you probably need somebody on the inside engaging the defence too. So with Herbie Farnworth and Mikey Lewis both going out towards the corner flag, if you like. There was nothing to stop the defenders sliding and not worrying about anything inside. If the half had vision, you will see that, is it number 10 here? He could have gone straight through a hole. Instead, the ball just goes out wide. England are playing corner flag football with nothing coming back on the inside. One more good ball set, and then I think you'll be seeing the patterns from throughout the series, basically. I want to go back to this. See how England just shifted the ball to the middle, which means to me that, or says to me that they were obsessed with going to the middle. They were in coach instructions. From the middle, we have the block play again. All England did was the block play and the front man. That looked good from Callum Watkins. Let's see why. So, front man, back man option here. Australia's defence should be fine numbers-wise. The front man, back man option, they go to the back. This time they went with Callum Watkins on the front. I think, even though he made a break, if they'd have gone to the back on this occasion, they would have been even more successful. But this just shows you how weak the Australian defence was at points, except England didn't test it enough. Now we've had a break, okay? So when you have a break, particularly if you go to a short lead like England did there, there's going to be space on the short side. And as you can see, one defender is struggling to get back because like England, they're only employing one marker. So if England were in shape, if England were ready and pushing on both sides of the ball, they might have sneaked down the short side here. Instead, Herbie Farmer's trying to come, the left centre is trying to come around and onto the open side. So this allows the Australian defence that's just been busted to recalibrate and settle again. England have just made a break. And when you make a break against a team like Australia, you need to capitalise on the next one after that, rather than allowing the defence to recalibrate. England now do, once again, another block play. They go to the line, but because the Australian defence has recalibrated, because their numbers are there and they are holding a lot more in defence, it was a blind alley for the halfback there. So he turned the ball back the other way. And they just end up settling there. Now, if you're going to play like this, what you need to do is have a lot of variety in your play. So you need to have inside options, outside options, run around. You notice Australia, Cameron Munster in the second test had lots of options around him. You need to have things like that, whereas England didn't have enough of that. You can see they're a little bit confused, and they just go back to their default, back to the middle. And it's pretty obvious where they're going to go now. They're going to come down the screen to the left. They're trying to do the old block play again. This time they're going to go out the back. But Australia are calibrated in defence and they just deal with it. Meat and drink. So they've gone from making a break to allowing Australia to just deal with everything, to giving them time. They now go back to the middle. Things are static. This is why England didn't score a point, folks, in so much of the test series. That's why they only scored 2 tries from dummy half. So it's no surprise to me why England scored 2 tries in the whole series with the way they structured their attack, but also they caused their own problems in defence. So I truly believe England could have done better if these things were done better in the ways that I've outlined in the video. Thank you so much for your attention during these analyses of the Rugby League Test Series, the first Ashes series in 22 years between England and Australia. Don't forget that keep checking this YouTube channel because I'm going to be putting together some analysis stuff all throughout the off-season. I get so many questions and what does this mean? What does that mean, Lee? So I'm going to be doing some explainer videos. Also, keep an eye out for the podcast, the Rugby League Coach podcast, and a brand new podcast coming up as well that will be talking about the game in both hemispheres. Don't forget to have a look at rugbyleaguecoach.com.au and also the Coach Mentor program if you're a coach. Plenty of options available. Thank you so much. My name's Lee Addison, and I've enjoyed your company. Take care.